Every day, I was praised by the professor as a rising star in the piano world, but I could only secretly wipe the blood on the piano keys in a dark room. Even the song that moved the world was played with fingers with peeling nails. I even had to inject 3 painkillers before each performance. However, everyone thought it was a manifestation of talent, but when they saw my medical examination report, they found out. I carefully sat next to Professor Wilner and looked at the music score in front of me. It was the song I played last night. My mood became more and more wonderful. In fact, I like this song very much. The love story it tells seems to be more beautiful than the reunion of a broken mirror. Although no melody directly expresses happiness, every note is telling joy, which is very beautiful and subtle. Soon, the sound of the piano sounded, and this time the feeling was different. Professor Wilner could clearly feel that I was in the lead. My piano sound contains the most exciting chicken crowing and dog barking in the morning, the clear gurgling water in the mountains, the flowers blooming everywhere, and the singing of birds in March. There is also the blue sky and the bright sun. All the beautiful things in the world are in my piano sound. The happiness I express in this way has far exceeded the connotation of this song. I felt Professor Wilner's whole body and mind relaxed. He seemed to be purified from head to toe. I could feel that he was sure that I was the person he was looking for. He also noticed that my eyes never fell on the music score and I had a good grasp of the rhythm. I was a rare talent. Child, I am willing to accept you as my student. Are you willing? I promise you that there will only be you as my only student, and I will give you all my life's learning. Professor Wilner suddenly felt unconfident at this time. I was about to agree immediately, but suddenly I thought of something and turned to look at Dominic. My eyes were full of desire and begging. Dominic really couldn't figure out what I was thinking. If he didn't agree, why did he bring me here? But he still nodded. Students have met teachers. It is my great honor to be your student. When I smiled, the tear mole at the corner of my eye seemed to bloom, which made me look more moving on the other person's face. Okay, the teacher believes that in the near future, you will become a rising star in the piano world, and the teacher will teach you well. We were very satisfied with each other and chatted until very late before going back. Dominic in the car looked at me and turned back to that melancholy look. He felt that this person was really quite contradictory. When I was happy, I could laugh like a child and be pure. But when I didn't want to talk and was in a bad mood, it seemed like I had experienced many vicissitudes of life. From different angles, you can see different me. The sound of the piano is also sometimes very depressing and dark, and sometimes it is bright. 2 different things can appear in the same person. For you piano players, mood is very important. Will different moods produce different sounds? Dominic certainly knew that this was the case. It was just such a nonsense literary sentence. He wanted to hear my answer. I had a good day today. It can be said that it was the happiest thing I have encountered since I grew up. I also knew that it was Dominic who did it. It was just a question. I would not refuse. Well, I like to use the piano to express my emotions, but the piano may not necessarily express my emotions, because the happiness in the piano can be deceptive, and the expression on the face can also be deceptive. The heart is the least likely to deceive, so only you know what is happy and what is sad. What you hear and see is just what I deliberately express. I am very good at this. Even if I am extremely sad, the expression on my face can be happy and positive. I don't know why I am used to using a smile to hide my true emotions. Anyway, I have been used to this since I was sensible and my piano sound is the same, but today I was happy from the bottom of my heart when I played the song with Professor Wilner. It is precisely because of this that the piano sound seems to be more beautiful than usual. Turns out that being yourself is such a wonderful thing. Dominic heard it, but he had a lot of confusion. He is not me. He doesn't know what I have experienced, so he said such words, and he is not qualified to comment. Take a break. I'll take you to eat something delicious. Dominic took me to a dessert shop. There were a lot of people there. I wanted to eat something, but when I thought about waiting in such a long line, I didn't want to eat anymore. Get off the car. No need to queue. I've already made an appointment. Go in and try it. The desserts and pastries in this shop are the best. This was of course not something Dominic investigated, but he just heard from Simon. Since I like sweet food, I should like it here very much. Seeing that I was struggling with what to eat, Dominic waved his hand and asked for the desserts on the menu. Everyone in the store looked at me with envy. Not only could they eat cakes, but they could also eat a whole table of cakes. They were so happy. Dominic, we can't eat so much. It's a waste. I looked at the menu page. There were at least more than 20 kinds. No matter how much I liked to eat, I couldn't eat so much. If you can't finish it, take it back and eat it with confidence. Dominic was originally rich and powerful. He didn't think about so many problems at all. The meaning of making money is to be happy when spending money. Soon, the table was filled with cakes. I was impatient to eat them first. They were very sweet and fragrant. Dominic was not so easy to feed, and he didn't like sweet things. After trying a bite, I was almost sick of it. I decisively asked for a cup of coffee and waited for me to eat while handling my work. I didn't notice what Dominic was doing. It was the first time I had such delicious desserts. I wished I had several mouths to eat them all. After eating for almost an hour, I slowly put down my fork and looked at the less than 10 small cakes left on the table. My eyes were full of regret. I couldn't eat them anymore, otherwise I would pack them all into my stomach. I'm full, pack the rest. If you want to eat more in the future, let Simon buy it. Also, from now on, you can go to Professor Venier to learn piano during the day, but you must come back at night. I will let Simon accompany you. This time I won't say anything. As long as I can learn piano, anything is fine. Okay. That night, I had a very beautiful dream. There was no nightmare in the dream, only beauty, relaxation, and the kind of happiness of being among flowers. Okay, then I will continue to rewrite the subsequent chapters into the first-person perspective because I can learn piano, my days suddenly have hope. It seems that life is not so boring. I also spend almost all my time learning piano. I get up at dawn every day to study, and I still play late at night. Professor Wilner is so satisfied with me. Not only is he very talented, but he is also very hardworking. Such a student can't be found even with a lantern. In 2 years, Professor Wilner has taught me almost everything he has learned in his life. The songs I composed are not as sad and desperate as before, and the relationship with Dominic has become good. We respect each other and do not interfere with each other, but we will definitely eat together. Dominic has also learned to take care of my taste. From time to time, there are some sweet dishes or meat on the table. Even if he gets sick, he hardly hurts me. We lived a plain life. I would play a few songs for Dominic at night. For 2 years, 731 days, I didn't miss a single day. Dominic had no idea what kind of consequences this habit would bring to him. Simon thought if it could continue like this, it would be great, good for his young master and good for me. However, the most common thing in the world is dissatisfaction. Other people's things are always other people's. I didn't practice the piano as passionately as usual that day. The sound of rain outside made me feel uncomfortable. Professor Wilner also noticed it. Although my student didn't say anything, he had sharp ears. He could feel that every time it rained, the songs I played were obviously forbearing and a little depressed. Xiao Yan, you are tired today. If you don't feel well, go back and rest early. It's not too late to practice tomorrow. I nodded. After calling Simon, I squatted at the gate of the Academy of Fine Arts, waiting for Simon to pick me up. I had painkillers on me, but they were getting weaker and weaker. It was the same as not taking them. I didn't want to take them anymore. As soon as I got in the car, I lay down on the back seat and curled up directly in the back seat. This was not the first time Simon had seen me. Master Shun, you feel uncomfortable again, right? I'll take you to find Master Lin. Moon's massage strength was just right, and the smell of his room made me feel relieved every time I hurt. I did bother Moon many times, and our relationship became very good. The key is that it's easier to be with him. However, I don't know if I'm too sensitive recently. I always feel that Moon's eyes are not right when he looks at me. It feels like a pet that I have raised has grown up, which makes me instinctively want to escape. When we came back, we saw a person who had disappeared for a long time. Anna stood beside him with her head down and didn't say anything. Simon was sitting and he saw it before me. The man who abandoned the young master came back. Just when the young master was about to give up on him and start a new life, he came back. At this time, Simon didn't know what to do. He was already at the door. What could he do? I obviously noticed something was wrong. I didn't get off the car when I arrived. I didn't know what Simon was doing. I sat up and found that there was a person who looked very similar to me, but more noble than me. At first glance, he was the kind of person who grew up in a family and was spoiled. He was completely different from me. Of course, I knew him. He was Dominic's first love and the white moonlight in his heart. I didn't expect him to come back at this time. Originally, he looked very similar to me in the photo, but I didn't expect him to look even more like me in person. I instantly understood why Dominic mistook me. Simon looked at me with embarrassment, not knowing what to say. I was much more calm. I have always known that I am a substitute, and I have always abided by my duties and kept a certain distance from Dominic. We have no ambiguity at all. I don't have any feelings for Dominic. I can take it and let it go. At most, I just returned to the Shin family. It's nothing great. I was about to open the car door when Simon shouted. The expression on my face was very embarrassed. I smiled and shook my head. Why do everyone think that I am so unbearable? I can't do such a thing as snatching the other person's lover. When I opened the door, Elias's eyes were obviously shocked. Or it could be said that he was horrified. What is your relationship with Jean and... He went straight to the point and wanted to know eagerly. Asher, it has nothing to do with Dominic. Don't worry. I'm just staying with him temporarily. Don't be nervous, I said in a relaxed tone. It should be me who is sad. But I comforted him. My name is Elias. Nice to meet you. He realized that his state just now was not right. Elias quickly changed his attitude. He didn't want to be suppressed by me. Hello, I know you. I've seen your photo at Lou's house. You and Dominic's matter still needs to wait for him to come back. You can do whatever you want. After saying that, I went upstairs. I was really uncomfortable, and I didn't have much to say to Elias. After all, this was the first time he saw the real person. Elias stared at my back, and his heart was really burning with anger. It has been 5 years since I left Dominic. If he hadn't met me before, he would have been very confident. After all, when Dominic was chasing him, he was like a dog, doing all kinds of operations. He didn't believe that the other party would give up before he got it. However, after seeing me, he suddenly lost the confidence he should have, because my attitude was very natural, just like the owner of this house. Simon, who is this Asher? And how long has he been with Brother Jean? And his tone was still arrogant. After being with Dominic and me for a long time, anyone would be disgusted if they suddenly encountered such a tone. Sorry, Master Jiang. The master has ordered that no one is allowed to discuss anything about the other party. You should wait until the master comes back and ask him in person. Simon didn't want to give him an answer, so he just perfunctorily answered. The point is, he is not the master. He doesn't know what the master is thinking. Master Jiang, do you need me to call you? Simon's idea is very simple. If he calls the master back, all the problems will be solved. He didn't have to stand here and endure the embarrassment. No, go and do your own things. I want to give Brother Jean a surprise. No matter how angry he was, he couldn't show it too obviously. His favorite thing to do was to watch Dominic, the proud son of heaven, pursue him. This made him feel very accomplished. Simon hurriedly retreated and prepared to tell the matter as soon as the young master came. After a while, he saw his young master's car, driving very anxiously. He got out of the car and came to Simon's side. Simon was about to speak when he was interrupted by Dominic. Where is Asher? It's raining. He is fine. Dominic came to get an umbrella without even having time to open it, and rushed over in the rain. Simon thought that his young master knew about Elias's affairs, but he didn't expect that he was asking this. Young Master Shin came back early today. He seemed very uncomfortable, but he refused to go to Dr. Lin and is now resting in his room. As the housekeeper of the Liu family, he was able to adapt to circumstances and reacted quickly. Call Moon over. I'll go see him. He rushed inside. Simon didn't have time to say what he wanted to say. Dominic was very anxious and kept running upstairs. He knew it from Moon accidentally. After his own observation, he also found that I would have back pain on rainy days. Every time he asked him, he was unwilling to say it, and Dominic didn't ask. Every time it rained, he would pay more attention to me. It has been 2 years. He has been used to it. On rainy days, he usually comes back earlier. He ran so anxiously that he didn't notice that there was a person sitting on the sofa. Such an action made Elias angry, and the seeds of hatred were planted. When he pushed open the door anxiously, he found that I had buried my head in the quilt on the bed. If the quilt hadn't been bulging, Dominic probably wouldn't have noticed. Asher, are you okay? It hurts, right? I've asked Moon to come over. Just bear with it. Dominic pulled my head out of the quilt. He didn't know what was wrong with me. Every time I went to sleep, I just liked to put myself in the quilt, not afraid of lack of oxygen. Dominic, I'm fine. I'll be fine in a while. My tone seemed very weak, and I hugged the quilt tightly, as if I was suppressing something. It hurts so much, but it's okay. Drink this water. Moon will be here soon. He supported me and stretched out his hand to hold my waist. I found that it was not as soft as others, but hard. Dominic, Elias is back. Did you see it? I leaned on Dominic and didn't drink the water he handed over. Although I didn't care, I wanted to see his reaction. Sure enough, Dominic's hand holding the water cup was obviously shaking, and there were traces of water spilling out of the cup. What did you say? Say it again. Dominic couldn't believe his ears. When he was about to give up, the other party suddenly gave him hope. Elias should be waiting for you downstairs now. I have met him. Go and meet him. I looked up and looked at his jawline. I had noticed that Dominic's jawline was very beautiful. Like an arch bridge, delicate and smooth, very charming. Dominic lowered his head and looked at me, trying to find a little different emotion from my expression. But he found nothing. Go, I'm fine, I urged without hesitation. Dominic didn't know whether to say that I was too sensible or really had no feelings for him. Who doesn't want someone to accompany him, her, when she is sick? Even if you can't bear the pain for the other person, you should accompany him, her. Then you have a good rest, and the moon will come soon. He covered me with the quilt and walked out slowly. At this time, he didn't seem to have that kind of urgent feeling in his heart. The originally passionate feelings seemed to have become dull. My understanding of this love in my memory seems to have really stayed in the past. Elias is like a glass of strong liquor. It is addictive at first, but after drinking too much, I found that it is just SOSO. Dominic doesn't know what emotion to use to face Elias now. He is used to having me around him and feels that life without Yufeng seems to be nothing. When going downstairs, Elias immediately ran up and hugged Dominic. Brother Jinan, I miss you. I really miss you. You have lost weight. Did you not eat well? His tone is still like to act like a spoiled child. I didn't lose weight, it was you who lost weight. I am doing well. Why did you come back suddenly? During the hug, Dominic was still touched. This touch was the inseparable bond between him and Elias. I didn't have a good life there. I didn't have many friends, and the food was not as good as in China. It happened that I got my certificate, so I came back. Why, Brother Jean and didn't want me to come back. But I rushed to you as soon as I got off the plane. He felt a little wronged. Elias pouted quickly and acted pitiful. No, of course I'm happy. I'm the happiest that you can come back. Your room is cleaned every day. You can stay here tonight. I'll have someone make you delicious food. Dominic kept having a voice in his heart telling himself that the person he liked was Elias, and he just regarded me as a substitute. There was nothing else, nothing else. Dominic didn't know that when he began to hesitate and doubt his heart, he had already lost this substitute game. Okay. Tonight I'm going to eat everything I haven't eaten abroad in the past few years. Seeing Elias laugh, Dominic also laughed. Moon, who came over, saw this scene, leaned against the door, and whistled at the two people. Alas, Yufeng is willing to come back. He has taken my brother's soul away for so long, and finally he is willing to come back. Elias turned his head and said, Brother Moon, why are you here too? Let's have dinner together tonight. I miss you so much. Moon is a warm man, of course he won't say anything hurtful. Okay, but I'm going to see a patient now, and we'll have a good chat later. You left without saying goodbye for so long. You have to accompany me for a drink tonight. Moon joked as he walked upstairs. He was more interested in my attitude. When he saw me, I had already sweated a lot. When Moon opened the door, I didn't even have the strength to open my eyes. But I was very familiar with the smell of Moon, and I knew it was him without opening my eyes. Moon also knew that I was not asleep, so he squeezed some ointment on his hand and pressed it on my waist. According to his own technique, my tense waist gradually relaxed. Moon touched my waist, and there was no meat, and it felt like bones, which was very uncomfortable. It has been 2 years since I came to the Liu family, and I haven't recovered my body yet. It's really a pity. It must be very uncomfortable to hug like this. Asher, Elias is back. What do you think? The answer made Moon look forward to it. I opened my eyes and looked at Moon, thinking that everyone was so funny. Why do you also think that I really have any thoughts about Dominic? I have always been able to recognize myself, so there is no such thing as abandonment. He and I have a relationship of interest. I am just a commodity he bought casually. If he wants to return it now, I will not say anything and have no complaints. I am nice to Dominic just to repay him for helping me find a good teacher. There is no personal feeling. Moon just smiled and didn't plan to say anything. He is now very sure that I am not moved. He is really worthy of being the one he likes. It has been 2 years, 2 full years, and he can still stick to himself. However, Dominic is not sure. Who will be the one to back out of the relationship between the 3 people? Moon was really excited. After the pain in my body eased, I fell asleep. This actually saved a lot of trouble. Moon turned up the temperature in the room before going downstairs. The 2 of them, one wearing an apron, tinkering in the kitchen, and the other busy passing plates and serving dishes, looked very compatible. I don't know if their hearts are also so connected. Dominic took off his apron and saw that Moon was alone, and couldn't help asking, "Where is Asher? Why didn't he come down?" Dominic cooked what I like and ordered my favorite desserts. He cooked so much, but I didn't come down. Brother, he didn't mean it. He was too tired and fell asleep. I can't wake him up. Moon walked to the dining table naturally and sat down. Looking at the dishes on the table, sweet and sour spare ribs, sweet and sour pork tenderloin, and sweet and sour fish, he couldn't help laughing. Someone was moved, but he didn't know it yet. Elias took the best wine and poured it for Dominic and Moon. "We haven't been together for a long time. We must get drunk tonight," he invited enthusiastically. Dominic would definitely not refuse, but he lived with me. Because he was afraid that drinking would hurt me, he hadn't drunk for a long time. The three of us picked up the wine glasses and clinked them, and then started drinking. During this time, Elias' eyes kept glancing upstairs, wanting to say something but stopping, and finally asked under the influence of alcohol, "Brother Jinan, who is that Asher? Why do we look so similar?" Moon decided not to intervene in this matter. He picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and put it in his mouth to taste it. It was only sweet, not sour, and it was so greasy. He silently put down his chopsticks and tried to swallow it. Only my kid could bear it. I thought Elias was so advanced that he could keep his composure, but I didn't expect him to be so impatient. "He is your uncle's son. You two are cousins. So you look so similar. He has no place to live, so he came to live with me for a while." Dominic tried to make his tone sound normal, and he didn't tell the truth at all. "Will you leave again when you come back this time?" When saying this, Dominic was no longer as humiliated as before. "No, Brother Jinan, I won't leave. I studied for 5 years just to stay with Professor Wilner. This is my dream and I want to realize it." The tone was full of fighting spirit, and the eyes were full of confidence. Exactly the same as 5 years ago. "Then you can try tomorrow. Professor Wilner is in the Academy of Fine Arts." Dominic was still happy for Yufeng. Who doesn't want to be rewarded for what they have worked so hard for since childhood? The three of us drank until very late, and Moon simply fell asleep on the sofa in the living room. If he wasn't afraid of waking me up, he really wanted to sleep with me. It was better than being with a group of people who were full of bad intentions. The next morning, when I went downstairs, I saw everyone sitting at the dining table waiting for me, especially Elias, who seemed to stare a hole in me. "Good morning, Xiaoyan. You slept well last night." Moon smiled teasingly, with an expression of watching the fun and not minding the big things. "Good morning, I slept well. I didn't feel uncomfortable at all, and sat at the farthest part of the dining table naturally. Eat breakfast, and then go to class." Dominic didn't know what to say in this situation. "Class? How old is Asher? Which university is he in? Elias doesn't know me yet, and thinks I'm just a student now. He's studying piano like you, and taking classes at the Academy of Fine Arts. Yufeng, aren't you going to the Academy of Fine Arts? Why don't we go together?" Moon loves to stir up trouble the most. "Okay. I didn't expect it to be such a coincidence that you also study piano. Next time we have a chance, we must play together. How long have you studied? Elias doesn't know my ability yet, and I look young and look like I've just become an adult and haven't entered the society yet. He thinks I should be just an amateur. 2 years. I swallowed the soy milk in my mouth and spoke silently. Moon felt that he was superior to others at this time, and felt that I was no threat to Dominic. "Then you have to work hard. Learning piano requires talent and hard work." Elias spoke as a senior at this time. After all, he has been studying piano for nearly 20 years. He thinks he is qualified to say, "I will." I took the egg from Moon and separated the egg white from the yolk. I ate the egg white with satisfaction and handed the egg yolk back to Moon. Moon didn't say anything and ate the egg yolk. He has mysophobia, but he can indulge me. Such an action is indulgence and pampering in Elias's eyes. It's obvious that I have been gone for 2 years, and I am the one who should enjoy these treatments. Why should I change someone else? The most important thing is that no one thinks there is anything strange. Elias's hand holding the spoon unconsciously clenched. He should be the one who is surrounded by stars, not me. He will never allow such a thing to happen. After breakfast, we followed Simon to the Academy of Fine Arts. As soon as I got in the car, I put on headphones. I am socially anxious and don't like to chat. Seeing such a scene, Elias naturally would not lower his status. He took the initiative to talk to me, so the three of us were like this, no one wanted to break the silence, and finally arrived at the Academy of Fine Arts. Elias got off the car the fastest. He knew that Professor Wilner liked to arrive early the most. We met for the first time, so we couldn't leave a bad impression on each other. I followed him slowly, and my teacher was naturally the most popular. I felt proud without any other thoughts. When Professor Wilner saw Elias, he almost shouted, but fortunately he stopped the sound in time. The person in front of me was definitely not me. The arrogance in his eyes could not be hidden, which was completely different from my humble child. Xiao Yan. Come here quickly, are you feeling better? He still liked me more than Elias. I took a few quick steps and came to Professor Wilner. Teacher, I'm fine. This teacher directly scared Elias, and his feet seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. The person he looked down on turned out to be Professor Wilner's student. You are too weak. Next time you go to my house, I will stew some tonic for you. His gesture was very intimate. We are both good teachers and good friends, and our relationship has always been very good. Elias's eyes have changed when he looked at me. They have become vicious. His eyes are full of poison. He couldn't accept that what he had worked hard for so many years was not as good as a kid who had only studied for 2 years. His brothers and people who loved him were all related to me. Now even his dream has been intervened by me. He believes that I am definitely not as simple as I seem on the surface. He doesn't believe it, but he lowered his head and tried to hide his emotions. He hasn't lost yet. This is just the beginning. Professor Wilner, I wonder if you can listen to the junior play a song and give the junior some pointers along the way. Elias thought that he had made so many preparations and would definitely use his piano sound to capture the professor's heart. I was standing by and signaled my teacher to nod and agree. As a highly respected pianist, Wilner was not arrogant in the eyes of outsiders and was easy to talk to. He was just strict in selecting students. For 2 years, people in the industry only knew that Professor Wilner had students, but no one knew what the students looked like or who they were. Professor Wilner did a really good job in protecting me. Okay, try it. Go play a song. He didn't want to give me a chance, but for my sake, he agreed. Elias quickly sat on the piano bench and played the same song I played that year. When he heard the first note, Professor Wilner's face turned black. As expected, he was used to the songs I played, and he couldn't stand this kind of song that was full of skills. He seemed to understand the true meaning of the song, but the emotion he played was far less than what the song wanted to express. The emotions were expressed vaguely. He naturally knew Elias, the young master of the Jiang family. His mother had worked with Professor Wilner before in order to become Professor Wilner's student. Elias would come to him almost every 6 months to play this piece, but after so many years, the piece he played had not changed much. It was still the same and could not stir up any waves. The piano sound that even the audience could not be moved by, the technique used too much was just to move himself. After one song, Elias was still very satisfied with his performance. He was quite familiar with this piece. He didn't believe that he couldn't capture Professor Wilner's heart. Kid, I can't deny the efforts you have made over the years, but please forgive me for saying the same thing. I can't accept you. I have a student, and I once swore that I would only have one student in this life, and I would not want anyone else. You should find someone else. Professor Wilner has expressed it very tactfully. He didn't say anything hurtful and gave the other person enough face. He never got married and had no children. He almost dedicated his whole life to the piano. I was the only one he liked, and he also enjoyed playing the piano with me. So no matter how anyone persuaded him, no matter how good anyone was, he only wanted me. Professor. Elias couldn't believe that he had spent so much time on the piano. His youth, his passion, and it was all wasted. No need to say more. I have made up my mind. My students are very good, and I don't need anyone else. Professor Wilner's attitude was very firm. Elias couldn't accept this reality and ran out, sitting at the door and crying. When had he ever been wronged like this in the Jiang family? Even in school before, he was a sought-after piano prince, and even his mother thought he was a genius with unlimited prospects. But he couldn't even compare to a little me. The more he thought about it, the more wronged he felt, and the more unwilling he was to accept it. He had an idea in his heart that as long as I couldn't play the piano anymore, as long as I disappeared, everything would go back to the way it was. He could still enjoy Dominic's love and become Professor Wilner's student. Thinking of this, his inner desires were instantly satisfied. He wiped away his tears, but was interrupted by a phone call. When he saw that it was his eldest brother, he quickly answered it. At this time, what he wanted most was someone to listen to him talk about his grievances. Hello, brother. His voice was a little aggrieved and had a strong nasal tone. Jack knew his brother so well. How could he not hear it? Xiao Yu, you secretly returned to China. Why didn't you go home? Have you been wronged now? Tell your brother. Brother, I came back late yesterday. I went to Brother Jinan's house for a gathering. I will be home soon. But brother, I feel so bad now. Professor Wilner doesn't want me anymore. He has students. I don't have any chance anymore. At this point, Elias burst into tears. The pair of slender, clean hands kept wiping his tears. Send the address to brother. Brother will pick you up. It's his loss that he doesn't like our Xiaoyu. Wait for brother. For this younger brother, Jack will never be stingy with his love. Okay. I'll wait for you here, brother. Elias hung up the phone. I wanted to chase him out to comfort him, but I saw that he already had his family with him, and it was the kind I envied. My forward steps suddenly retreated. I have lived a comfortable life for a long time. I almost forgot that I was pitiful. I had no one to love me. What qualifications did I have to comfort Elias, who had a harmonious family and brothers and sisters? Jack obviously noticed me and my movements. He investigated me and knew that I was not doing well in the Shen family, but he had no position to care about me. We rarely met after that meeting. When we met now, he was still the same as before, as thin, as melancholy, and as expressionless. He was about to reach out to say hello, but I suddenly turned around and left, so he had to give up. Don't be sad. Brother will take you to eat delicious food, and mother has prepared delicious food for you at home. I must go home tonight and try our father's cooking skills to see if there is any improvement. Jack decided that it was more important to focus on the things in front of him, because I am not his biological brother. Okay, brother. Let's go. I don't want to stay here for a moment now. Elias took his brother's arm and got into the car, watching the scenery outside the window recede, and the Academy of Fine Arts gradually disappeared from his sight. Elias breathed a sigh of relief, and seeing his brother's mood improve, Jack asked, "What are your plans next? Do you want to stay? In fact, don't think that your mother doesn't care. She can't bear to see you alone outside. Every time she thinks of you, she will cry secretly. My suggestion is that I hope you can stay. In pursuit of dreams, Zhang's mother will not stop Yufeng. Even if she is reluctant, she will still let Yufeng pursue his dreams.